Thank you for tuning in to the Life of KG podcast. We are all about helping you guys in the beauty industry. Whether you're starting out in this industry or been in the business for years, we want to motivate you, educate you, and support you to grow. Enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome back to A Life of KG. So today I get to interview Dr. Nikki. Now, Dr. Nikki is the female money doctor. She actually is an NHS doctor with a difference. She's been a GP for over 10 years with the experience as a doctor and women's health specialist. And she has seen the impact that poor money management skills can have on mental health of her patients and colleagues. And she is on a mission to change that. So today we're going to be talking about money mindset, and she's going to be giving a few hints and tips to be able to help you guys. So without further ado, here she is. Nikki, or Dr. Nikki, should I say. How are you? Thanks for coming on the Life of KG.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Like Dr. Nikki, I don't really mind, whatever. So it's all good.
It's always like, oh, what should I say? Is there disrespect if you don't say the doctor? Like you don't know, do you?
I just say it because I think it helps people to remember who I am. Like if I just said Nikki, it's like it's quite easy to forget that. But if you put Dr. Nikki, yeah, I know who you're talking about now. So that's why I use it.
Definitely, yeah. That is a good way. So Nikki, tell me, or the listeners, who you are, what you do, a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I am actually a GP. So I'm a doctor working for the NHS right now. And I have been a doctor now since 2009, so quite a while. And I decided around 4 years ago that I wanted to help people with their money. And the leap sounds like a crazy one, but I had a real issue with my own finances. I was in huge amounts of debt, sitting up late at night, worrying about how I was going to pay off all this debt, not being able to pay my mortgage at one point, like loads of like horrible things that I had to go through. And when I took a bit of time out to decide what I wanted for my career, and I switched from being a hospital doctor through to a GP. And at that point, that's when I realized that the patients and my colleagues that I was working with all had issues around money. It doesn't matter whether you've got a lot of it or not very much of it. Everyone has got some kind of issue around money, and it can really impact on your mental health and on your physical health. So when I went back into training again, I decided to start my own blog, and that became the Female Money Doctor. And then I thought, actually, I'd quite like to do this as a career move. And then I trained as a money coach. So yeah, that's where I am now.
Wow. So I bet so did you realize then that the patients that you were seeing were a lot of them, their issues or their, anxieties and stuff that was related around money, was it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily that every single person that comes in has got like a money problem going on, but a lot of people that do have anxiety, that do have depression, have money problems either as a result of that because they can't work, so suddenly they're without an income, or they've already got issues with money and that's leading to the depression and anxiety. So there's more to it than that as well. It's things like young people that didn't have a will and then ended up dying early, and then their family's left in a chaotic mess. So it's doesn't seem like money on the surface, but actually is all related, because money is not just about earning it, it's about how you look after it as well, and it's about how you keep it in your life and how you keep it for your family as well. So yeah, there's so many elements to healthcare that involve money, especially NHS pays for our healthcare, right? But there are people that need immediate help with physiotherapist, or they need acupuncture for ongoing headaches or neck pain, or they need a psychotherapist because they've got mental health problems, and they go on waiting lists that could take 18 months plus, but you need the help now. So even though the NHS is there and it's amazing, it's supporting everybody that lives in the UK, you still need to do something around your own money to be able to afford the things you need to do to get yourself well, including the sorts of things that you do and the things that you offer people in your salons and stuff. So it's all interconnected is what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. So let's dig a little bit deeper onto your story. Like, let's go back. How come you wanted to go into doctoring, then go into kind of money mindset? Tell me a bit more about your background.
So I decided when I was about 16 to go into medicine, because you have to kind of plan these things quite early on, because there's a lot of things you've got to do to get into medical school. There's even more you've got to do now, but back then, I had to get work experience. I had to make sure that I was choosing the right subjects when it came to A levels. I then had to make sure I got certain grades to get into the university. So you have to plan really early on. And it wasn't my initial thought. My initial thought was I wanted to be a teacher, but it was one of my teachers that actually said, no, do you know what? You could do something else, something different to teaching. And the idea of being a doctor didn't even enter my brain until she said it. So it was really amazing that she did. And then I applied, and that's what you do. You just apply to the different medical schools that I thought I might quite like to go to, and went to the interviews, which are nerve-wracking in themselves. So you've got to do like interview prep and practice, and all of that stuff needed to happen for me to get into medical school. And then when I actually got through medical school, because that's hard, and it's like, I'm skipping like big chapters, but medical school was hard work. It was like doing my A levels like 50 times over. It was horrific.
I can't even imagine.
Everything that you start off as new is hard. All right. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It feels horrible and hard and stressful. When you get through the other side, then the hard work begins when you actually start working with, well, in my case, it's patients, but, clients, customers, colleagues, people that have been in the workforce a long time. And that's the point where I realized that actually maybe medicine's not quite what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't ER. If you're not old enough to remember ER, ER was like the equivalent of casualty over in America back when I was like 13, 14 or whatever. And that's what I thought medicine was all about, heroic, you're rescuing people, it's all amazing. But the reality of healthcare is very different. And a lot of it's all paperwork and admin and being shouted at because people can't get their care in the way that they want to get it. And do you know what? I just thought there's got to be more. There's got to be more to it than this. And I didn't know at that point I wanted to help people with their money. It's almost like that bit found me, but I was looking for something I could do outside of medicine that I could be creative in. And, because you can't be very creative in medicine. I don't care what anyone says. You follow guidelines, you do what you're supposed to do. Otherwise, that could get you into trouble later on down the line. If you can justify it, fine, but you can't go off the rails too much. Whereas I was really craving something creative. I wanted to write. I wanted to create, images. I wanted to do something. I don't know what it was, and the money stuff found me. So yeah.
So what was that turning point for that money to find you to think, actually, I want to do this? Obviously, you said that it's your patients coming to you and stuff, but was there anything else that okay, I'm going to start doing this now? Like, how long have you been doing it for?
So my business has been going for nearly 4 years. So I started this in July 2017. And initially it was just a creative outlet. It was for me to be able to write about my experiences of not being very good with money, like overspending. Like I bought a pair of Christian Louboutin shoes on my credit card as a reward for getting through one of my exams. I had no clue how I was going to pay it off, and it just went onto the debt pile. And that's the sort of stuff I started talking about. It was the honesty around I wanted those shoes, so I went and bought them, and then I regretted it afterwards. I've still got the shoes; they're awesome. I love them, but it still brings back that fear of getting back into that debt again. So so that's what I started doing. I just started writing about what I was doing to get myself out of debt and the things I was learning about, because I realized that lots of people needed that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're really open with, that you was in debt and stuff like that, which is great because you show your vulnerability and, you've changed it around and you've, come out the other side.
Yeah.
What was your reasons for going in debt? Was it, obviously you said you just put things on credit cards. Was that your main thing? Was it student debt? Like, where did that stem from?
So the student debt, I think, gave me permission to get into more debt. So when you know that you're going to come out of uni with a load of debt from your student loans and stuff, it kind of almost makes you think, oh, well, I can add more to it. It's not going to matter too much. So I think what happened is I finished uni, and then I thought, well, I'm a doctor, so I need to live like one, and I need to have fun like a doctor. I'm living in London at that point, and I wanted to go out. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to be and do and have everything, but I didn't have the income to back it up. Just because it looks successful and people think, oh, doctor, wow, you must be really successful. I bought into that idea, but I was only on about 24,000 a year to start off with. That's not a huge amount of money. It's certainly not a huge amount of money to be going out 3 times a week in London and dropping £100 every time you do. So I was regularly overspending by £1,000 a month, something like that, just so that I could keep up with my friends, go on holidays, do the things I wanted to do, and not be able to say no to anything. So FOMO was a huge reason why I got into debt. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, you can still have fun and do the things you want to do, but there's ways of doing it that doesn't involve having to put it all on a credit card. That was just my way of doing it.
Definitely. What was your turning point where you was like, okay, I actually need to start sorting this out now and changing the way that I do manage my money?
Yeah. So what happened for me is I got burnt out. So I was working in a field called obstetrics and gynecology at the time. And that's helping women deliver their babies, looking after women that have got gynecology problems. And I was massively burnt out. I couldn't cope with the workload anymore. So I asked for some time off. They gave me a year out of my training. And in that year off, I went traveling. Again, had some savings, but also used a lot of my credit cards as well to do it. And at the time, I didn't tell anyone that's what I was doing. I just did it. And I felt really bad about it. When I was away, I realized how much money was sat on my credit cards. And I was like, I've got no idea how I'm going to pay this off. And that was the point, because I actually stopped working. I actually stopped bringing the income in. And that's when it hit me. And I thought, okay, something's got to change now, because if I don't change, I'm going to end up losing my house. I'm going to end up losing the things that I love, because I was silly with my money. So that's when I started reading stuff about how to get out of debt and what I needed to do to turn it all around. And so there we go.
Wow, that's amazing. And what an amazing career you've had so far with like everything that you've done. You must have seen and heard so much over the years.
Yeah, there's been some interesting things that have happened. If you've ever read the book This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, he was a male obstetrics doctor, and his book kind of describes a lot of the things that I did as well and I went through. It brought back so many memories reading it. So if you're interested in knowing what it's like to be an obstetrics doctor, have a read of his book. It's really eye-opening, and he left the profession as well, so it's not just me.
Yeah, definitely. I'll give that a go because I love reading, so that's a good one. So going back to money, is such a big subject for people, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it. It's very secretive. There's just a lot that stems around people talking about money. Why do you think that is?
So I get asked this question, and I don't quite know why we're all so secretive about it. I think it's stuff that we've learned from our parents and they've learned from their parents, and I don't know where it started from, whether maybe it was a Victorian thing, it was impolite to talk about money. This is only in England. There are other countries that talk very openly about money. In America, they're not afraid to talk about it. They're not afraid to kind of brag about how much they're earning and stuff, or asking each other what they're bringing in. We just seem to find it really uncomfortable in this country. But actually, if we talk about it, then we can say to each other, how much do you get paid? And that's, I think that's going to help to dispel so much of the gap, the gender wealth gap that's out there. If we know that we're not being paid as much as our colleagues or whatever. And I've been in that situation. I've been in a situation where I've earned less, and I've been in a situation where I've earned more. Did I talk about it? No, because it made the other person feel uncomfortable. So we just have to kind of do it bit by bit and be okay with talking about it with our friends, celebrating when we all earn a decent amount of money. Oh, that's amazing, that's great, keep going. Like that's what I do in my group. I get people to talk about it and be more open. But why we don't, I don't know. I think there was a stat I read recently that people would be more likely to talk about their own death and be happier with talking about their own death than they would be money. So, you know,
that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, it is crazy. And I do agree that it stems back to how we were brought up and things like that, because I know I manage my money exactly how my mum managed her money and exactly how my nan managed her money. And it's taught us so many different things. And luckily they do manage their money well. So I've managed to do that. But it definitely does stem from like childhood and your family's values around money as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's nice that you've taken on some really great habits and you've carried that forward. I rebelled against what my parents told me to do. So they were all about saving and being careful with money. But I equated that to being boring. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't want to be boring. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do whatever I want to do and be free, because freedom is one of my highest values. So yeah, if you learn some great skills from your parents and then don't rebel against it, you'll do really well. But that's why I do what I do now, because I want more women to learn great habits, which means they can then teach their kids. Because, you know, at the end of the day, women are the ones that do most of the caregiving and we do most of the teaching and education of our children. So if more women are okay with this, their kids will be too, because there's so many things out there that you can do now.
Yeah, like I'm absolutely fascinated about money at the moment. Like obviously I've been really good with money, I'm very careful with the businesses and stuff like that, but there is so much to learn all of the time. Have you read Good Dad Bad Dad? Oh no, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Yeah, no,
that's totally wrong. Bad Dad.
Right, now I know exactly which one you mean. Robert Kiyosaki. He's done a load of books. Yes, that was one of the first books I read actually when I was still traveling. It was because I had had so much time. I was like, right, I'm going to read all these books, and that was the first one that actually made a huge amount of sense to me. And if you've not read it, please put it on your list, because what he talks about these two men. Now, there's been arguments about whether this was actually real or not. It sounds like
really. I'm in the middle of listening to it now, so
yeah, it's people think that he's made it up. So actually, there was no such thing as a rich dad, poor dad. But I think if you go beyond that and actually listen to the concept of it, of what did rich dad learn and why is he rich and why is it that the rich always keep getting richer, and what did poor dad learn and why is poor dad struggling? Now, poor dad is clever. He was at university. He's a professor, I think it was, from memory. You know, he was a clever man, but he was working and exchanging his time for money and doing nothing with that money to be able to free himself from that, apart from, I think, putting it towards his pension or something, I think, at the time. Whereas rich dad was like, screw that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put my money towards investments that are going to give me an income, which means then I'm free to be able to do what I want. You don't see a really rich person scrubbing the floors and working really, really hard, do you? You see them on yachts, you see them, you know, chilling out because they've got assets that are paying them to do that. Whereas the rest of us, if we don't have those, we have to work hard for that money. And then we only get to retire when we get to our 60s and 70s, because that's when our pension is technically big enough to be able to do that. So it's really eye-opening, and if you get that concept, then you'll be able to make changes to your own finances to be able to follow that.
Definitely, I am so fascinated with it. And the other one is the latte factor.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I've heard about it. So yeah, I think that's the one that talks about how you make small changes. Is that right?
Small changes, and basically like being able to be a millionaire as such when you're older. So it's a bit like pensions, but being just doing it differently is so interesting. You'll have to listen to it. But it is making them little day-to-day changes that we don't even realize that we're doing.
That's it. Yeah, it's all the small changes. It's not necessarily that you're gonna, like, you give up drinking coffee and suddenly you're a millionaire. It doesn't work like that. But if you invested that money that you would have used for your latte, you know, £3, whatever it is, £3.10 or something in Costa, isn't it? But if you invested that money instead, over time that would make money. The younger you start doing that, the better. You know, anyone can invest at any point, but the younger you start, the more likely these small amounts of money are going to make huge differences to you when you're old.
Definitely. It's so fascinating. People that are listening to this, and obviously you work with people and businesses, lots of people listening to this are business owners or getting into business or in the beauty and hair space. If they're poor with their personal money, as in not very good at managing it, do you think that would then go on to how they manage their business money? Have you seen this? Do you find that people look at it very differently, or do they create the same habits for both?
I think everyone's different. So some people will create the same habits for both. And if they're chaotic with their own money, they're chaotic with their business finances. Some people are very good with their business finances, and it's like they are on it, they're organized, they know what's going on with it, they would never, let it run out or anything. And then with their own finances, they're just in a complete mess. That's more common. I've seen that more commonly than I've seen it with people that are kind of generally bad in both areas or whatever. But you can certainly learn concepts for your own finances and apply them to business, and vice versa. You can do the same with business and bring it to personal finance. But what I've found is that they're actually very different, and the way that you think about them is very different. Except something recently that I learned about called Profit First. And that's a really interesting book about how you set profit aside every single month. And then whatever's left is what you actually spend on building the business. Whereas what a lot of business owners do is they see what's in their account and they'll spend it, but they forget that they're also part of the business. So if your business can't afford to run you and run your life, the business isn't working. So you have to make sure that anything you factor into it is also paying you, and you're paying yourself some profit and some wages and stuff. So where I think it really helps business owners is where you might be successful bringing in loads of money and you've got an amazing salon, which is awesome. But what are you going to do with your own finances to make sure that you are building wealth around you? So like the COVID crisis, that's been a classic example. Like the guys that I get my hair cut with didn't get any money at all. They received nothing from the government when they closed their salon. They had to furlough all their staff. They still had to keep paying all of their wages, but they had nothing for themselves. So actually it's about, okay, if that ever happened again, touch wood, we never go through this again. What else can you do? Like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what can you do to bring money in another way? So investment property is a classic one. That's something you could explore and look into. Stocks and shares investing, that's something you can look into. Making sure you've got a pension. If you've only ever worked for yourself, what are you doing for retirement? I know it might seem ridiculously long away if you're only in your 20s, but that's the time to do it, because that's when you're going to have all this amazing money for when you want to stop working, because at some point I'm sure you're going to want to.
Definitely. And I'd really like people to really realize that, even if they just take that one bit from this podcast, to look at their pension, because so many people in our industry haven't even got one. And especially being self-employed or business owners, they kind of just forget about themselves and work on the business or their employees, and actually they're the last people that they think of. So it's amazing the amount of people that haven't got a pension set up, and actually quite scary, because what are you going to do when you're 16 and you want to retire? Is definitely, I mean, I've had a pension since I was about 16 years old.
Oh, amazing.
Because I've been working for so many years. I started it when I was really young, and I remember my mum setting up this meeting with me, and I was like, why are we doing this? I don't want to think about death and being old. I didn't get it. She was like, you're earning the money, put it in your pension pot. Trust me, you'll thank me later on in life. And I done it so young.
That's so good. And that means you're sorted then, because you're going to keep adding and adding and adding to it. So what do you do? Are you using a self-invested personal pension, or have you got some other kind of pension?
I've got the personal pension, and then I'm actually in the middle of talking to another financial advisor at the moment that specialises with businesses, because there's ways of doing it through your companies as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which actually I wasn't told about back then, which I'm kicking myself for now, because I could even have a bigger pension pot and different pension pots for all the companies that we have. So again, if you do have businesses, like, it's not just a nest pension that you need to look at that your staff go through. There's different ways that you can set up your pension as a business owner. So it's definitely worth looking into that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think when it's starting to get complicated and you've got multiple businesses and you've got all different things going on, definitely financial advice is the right way to go. When you're just starting out and you'd like, well, I haven't got much money, I've only just started my salon or whatever, then get yourself a pension in the same way you've done it. You know, you can definitely do it yourself online or whatever, you can find it. But yeah, I think when it gets complicated, financial advice is like worth its weight in gold.
Oh my gosh, it is. I mean, the things that they come out with that you would just never know, like they study this is their job. Like they know how to be very, very clever with your money and where to invest it or what pension to put it in with and all that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely worth that.
Yeah, and it's worth asking questions as well. It's okay them looking after that money for you, but then it's like, okay, well, how is it being invested? How much money is it costing me for it to be invested? And you know, what do I need to do in order to get hold of that money? Can I move it at some stage? You know, how easy is it me to get there? And if your financial advisor can't tell you any of those things or doesn't want to, you know, take the time to explain it to you, they're not the right person. You know, it's gone are the days now where they should just be doing it for you and don't explain what they're doing. They should explain why and what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that you read Profit First. That literally changed my whole mind about like money in the business and how to manage it. And do you remember his chapter on the toothpaste?
No, remind me of that one again.
I literally say it to everyone. I love it. Like if you go to the bathroom now and you go to brush your teeth and there's hardly any toothpaste in there, you're squeezing it and squeezing it out. And somehow that toothpaste tube that's nearly gone can last you like another week or two somehow. Yeah. Whereas when you have a whole tube of fresh toothpaste, you use loads because there's loads in there. So it goes down faster. So you see money as your toothpaste tube. Like when you have lots of money in your bank and that's what you see straight away, you think, oh, I've got all this money. So you start spending it. Whereas if you take it out and take the temptation away, so whether that's scattering it in different accounts to, you know, staff wages, pension pots, your savings, your wages, all that kind of thing, you take away that temptation. So it's like the toothpaste that's nearly gone, because then you're very careful of what you do with the rest of the money. And I loved that saying. Like, I think it's so true, isn't it? I mean, we all know what it's like to be running out of toothpaste and making it last.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with time as well. It's the same with space. Like if you take a massive suitcase on holiday, you're going to fill it. Whereas if you take a small suitcase on holiday, you find a way of making sure that everything fits inside it and you're still okay. Same with money, same with time. You know, if you've got a task to do and you give yourself 20 minutes, you'll do it. If you give yourself 3 hours, you'll do it in 3 hours. So Profit First was just such a cool way of looking at it. And that's one of the ways that I teach people around budgeting as well. Like I get them to think about compartmentalizing their money so that you've got a bit going to fun, a bit going to investments, a bit going to your savings, and then whatever's left is what you pay your bills with. And that's the concept of Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is pay yourself first, which took me ages to get my head around, because I was like, yeah, but I've got bills to pay. Like how can I pay myself first? That's what he means. He means making sure that you've set some money in your budget that stays in your pocket rather than being given away to everybody else.
Definitely. We are always, as business owners, salon owners, hairdressers, whatever business you're in, we always pay ourselves last. And it's so annoying and frustrating as a business owner when you're paying staff members and they're actually getting paid more than you. And that is so common. It happens all the time in our industry. You'll be paying salaries to the therapist, and actually the owner of the salon that's putting even more work in will come out with less than a salary. And that's what you always need to make sure doesn't happen. You need to be paid more than every staff member in there and reap the benefits as well. Otherwise, what's the point in having a business?
Exactly. You're just ending up in just there's another book by Robert Kiyosaki you've got to have a look. It's called The Cash Flow Quadrant. And the cash flow quadrant talks about the different ways in which people make money, and business owners in that precise situation that you've spoken out is one of those quadrants. And it's not freedom. It's you've just given yourself another job. It's even harder. You don't get all the benefits of having a job. So it's also having the distinction of, right, I'm going to have a business, but this business is going to work for me and the lifestyle I want. Otherwise, as you say, what's the point? You may as well just stay in a salon and work for somebody else.
Exactly. I always say all the time now, and all the girls that are on my membership program know this, have you created a job or have you created a business?
Yep.
If you've created a job, you might as well just go and work for someone else. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, it's easier. You get all the benefits of being off sick. You know, you get holiday pay. There are so many benefits to having a job. And if that's what you want, that's fine. You don't have to like start your own business. But if you want to start your own business, do it for the right reasons and actually free yourself up so that you can have the lifestyle you want. Because that's why we all do it, isn't it? We all want to start businesses for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. So can you, as the money mindset doctor, give us some tips on how we can manage our money mindset better than what we do already?
Yeah. So one of the big things that, I mean, we all do it. We've all got self-limiting beliefs. So we've all got these things that we say to ourselves that are making things worse in terms of our money mindset. So for example, I used to say to myself a lot, I'm rubbish with money. If I say that to myself a lot, suddenly my brain sees all the reasons why I'm rubbish with money. Oh yeah, you made that mistake and look what happened there and you got yourself into debt there. And it's so easy for that problem to become so much bigger because you're telling yourself that all the time. Or I can't do that because I can't learn to be better with money. I can't read that book because I don't have time, because I'm busy, because I'm the excuse bit is the self-limiting belief. And actually you have to, if you're telling yourself you can't read Profit First or you can't read Cash Flow Quadrant because you're too busy, then you have to go and read it because you're telling yourself you're too busy. But actually, if you read it, you would free yourself up. So it's, you know, you've got to do these things. So think about a belief that you've got, like it's not working, or I can't possibly do this, or there's going to be something negative that you're saying about money, or I always spend it, or what other things people say to themselves around money? I'm no good at maths, or whatever. If you're telling yourself all these things, then that's precisely what you're going to get. So switch it around. What would you prefer to believe instead? So make it completely opposite. So I'm rubbish with money becomes I'm awesome with money, and I make amazing decisions with my money every single day. And you say that to yourself instead, not I'm rubbish with money. And have them stuck everywhere. Like I've got a vision board and I've got all my kind of like phrases and things on there. I've got them on my phone, so they flash up every now and again. Like, and I go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I'm good with money, or whatever it is. But make it really cool. So when you see it, it makes you feel good about yourself. And then ask yourself, why am I so good with money? Why am I so good with my business? Why am I amazing at this? Why am I going to succeed? That's a better question to ask your brain, and you'll find all the amazing reasons why you're so good.
I love that. That is really good. And it's affirmations, isn't it? And telling yourself differently, because you do put out there what you attract.
Yes. Yeah, but you've got to believe it. What I'm coming to understand is you've got to believe it from your head and your heart. So you might say it up in your head and your brain's going, yeah, whatever. You've got to feel it in your heart, which is why vision boards are so great, because you can see the progress you're making. How many salons do you want? Where are they going to be? What kind of women are you going to bring in? And imagine like greeting them at the door when they come in and go, oh yeah, you know, this is awesome. Come into my amazing salon. This is what the colors are going to look like. And you know, if you can visualize all of that, these affirmations become so much easier. Initially they're going to feel really weird because you're like, well, I'm not rich, I'm not a millionaire, I'm not whatever it is that you're saying to yourself. So feel it and imagine it, and then do what that person of the future would do to create that. You're not going to be able to get to the future by thinking the way we do now. We've got to think about how we would be in the future of that person. So what would that salon owner do? What would that business owner do? What things would no longer be an issue for them anymore? They probably wouldn't be in debt, or if they were, they'd be handling it. They'd be paying their credit card off in full every month because they'd be paying themselves well, you know. So there's, what would that person be acting like, and be more like them.
Definitely. And I'm very much into this. I love dream boards, vision boards, affirmations, you know, gratitude, all of that type of stuff. And it is something that you need to put into like your day-to-day life and make it fit. But I'll just share with you, because it might help some people. But I was listening to, it must have been a book or a podcast. I drown in books. I am always learning something. It's actually hilarious. So I don't know where it was from, but it was basically saying that like affirmations or gratitude, like you don't have to set that time out of your day to do that if you haven't got the time. Everyone says they haven't got the time, and there is. It'll literally take you 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah.
But they said about when you're in the shower, and obviously we have a shower daily or a bath, whatever obviously you prefer. And when we're in the bath or the shower, we're literally just letting our mind run with us. We might be worrying about stuff, or like, what are we actually doing in the shower other than washing ourselves? So it's a real prime time to actually think about that water on your body. Think about all the things that you want. Do your affirmations, do your gratitude while you're in the shower, because it's taking no time. Like, you have no reason why you can't do that. And I swear, Nikki, I've been doing it for 2 weeks and it's completely changed my life. And I said to my trainers about it the other day, and they were like, oh, we've got to go and run the shower now. We want to shower. Because it's not taking any time. We're doing it every day. So now I know. I actually enjoy now. Well, obviously, like, enjoy having a shower anyway, but enjoy having a shower, knowing I'm going to do my gratitude and my affirmations while I'm in there. And it just makes such a difference. Like, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, it does. And you've got such a great mindset around it. And that's absolutely what we all need to cultivate. It's the same as having a shower every day. You wouldn't skip having a shower. I mean, you might do occasionally, but you wouldn't do it all the time. It's the same with this kind of stuff as well. It's about keeping the positivity going and not giving up when it feels hard, because there are going to be plenty of times where it feels hard, or you think, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
Actually, if you can find ways to keep yourself going, like through the affirmations or keeping a gratitude journal or having a vision board or throwing it all at it and just, do everything, that will help. That will really help.
Definitely. And it is about staying positive in your mindset. And that doesn't mean, like, sometimes people might listening to this might be like, well, this is all a bit woo woo. And I've always said that, like, oh God, I sound a bit crazy that I say that I do this, but like, this bad things still do happen. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, you're going to be miss positive and nothing bad's going to happen. It does. But when it does happen and you've done all of this stuff in the morning or however it is that you've set up, you conquer the things that come at you so much better. Yeah. Because you've got that positive mindset. So yeah, you might be down, it might affect you, of course it will, whatever that is that's happened to you, but you will find better ways of dealing with that, or you won't hold on to that issue for so long. Have you found that with you as well?
Yeah, absolutely. When you start thinking more positively, you see more opportunities. You see, that mistakes actually are ways of learning. So you never lose if you mess something up. It's like, oh, okay, fine, I messed it up, didn't work that way. Okay, fine, let's try a different way of doing it. And you keep tweaking and learning and experiencing. Even having like your first customer that complains about something you've done is a cause to celebrate, because it's like, well, actually, I'm doing something right now, and it means that enough people are now seeing me, which means that somebody's got upset with something I've done. I can't please everybody. It's still a cause to celebrate. So yeah, you're right. It does come across as a bit woo-woo sometimes, but that's what it takes. It does take being positive as much as you possibly can be. Like, it doesn't mean ignore being negative, because you still have to understand what negative feels like in order to know what positive feels like. And bad things happen in life. They just do. But as you said, it's about how you deal with them and how you come through the other side. Yeah,
and I love that you're a doctor and you believe this.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think I've ever been a normal doctor. I've always felt a little bit sort of out there. And I remember I did like this dissertation thing at medical school, all about complementary medicine. And I experienced Reiki, I had, reflexology on my feet, aromatherapy, like I tried all these different things out and I loved it. And other people around me were like, what the hell are you doing? None of this is scientific. And I'm like, yeah, but it's great. Made me feel good. Why not? Why not try all these things? So yeah, I very much believe in it. And there's also this whole thing around quantum energy and quantum fields, and people are actually studying this stuff now about being positive actually does help everything around you. Like, there's been experiments where people have talked to their plants in a really nice way, and their plants have thrived, and they've compared it with a plant that they basically told horrible things to, and that plant died. So there are actually experiments now about how you're talking to things around you, how you're talking to yourself, and that affects the cells within your body that affects how you are as a person. And there's even ideas that the more negative you are, the more likely you are to attract illness and disease and all that kind of stuff, because you're talking to yourself in such a way that your cells are like, oh, well, we'll just give up then, shall we? And, so I'm not saying that's exactly how it works, but that's interesting though, right? That they've found
that just incredible.
Yeah.
It's actually going to become like a study, or people are studying it. I just think that's incredible.
Yeah. And this is it. So why not talk to yourself more in a nicer way? Okay, maybe you don't agree with the research. Maybe you think that it's all a load of rubbish, but wouldn't it be nicer just to talk to yourself in a nicer way anyway than being horrible to yourself? Why not? Even if it is an experiment, try it. See what happens.
Give it a go. Try and prove us wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Nikki, you've got your own podcast. I've been listening to it. I absolutely love it. That's what I listen to when I'm driving at the moment. Tell us a bit about your podcast, what it's called, where people can listen in.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So it's called the Money Medicine Clinic podcast. And the idea was GPs get 10 minutes to talk to their patients about whatever's going on with them. And I mean, certainly that was before COVID. We've got even less time now because it's all on the phone. But 10 minutes is enough time to try and analyze what's going on with somebody. So I thought, why not create a podcast of 10-minute takeaways that literally are looking at somebody's money problem in 10 minutes. So there's a bit of variety in there. I've got some longer interviews as well. I've got sort of some of my community members talking about their money journeys. I've got Denise Duffield-Thomas in there as well. Like, she came and did an interview with me, which was amazing. She's one of my idols. If you've never come across Denise Duffield-Thomas, you have to listen to that one. So there's lots of sort of those kinds of things, but generally in 10 minutes you can tackle one problem, and it might be a mindset problem, or it might be something to do with budgeting or getting out of debt or investing or whatever. But so I try and cover a lot of different avenues.
Yeah, I love it. So anyone that wants to listen, definitely go and check that out. And where can people connect with you if they're interested in getting in touch, find out what other services you offer?
Well, I've got my website, thefemalemoneydoctor.com. And that's where you'll find a lot of my freebies and things like that on there. But I also offer 15-minute strategy sessions, so you can book a time to come and do that, and we can have a chat about your money and what I offer that might be suitable for you. And I've also got a Facebook group as well, if you're interested in Facebook group or Instagram. You're either one or the other. I don't think people generally tend to be both, but I'm on both of those, so you can come and find me on there.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your tips and tricks. And I'm sure this is going to go down very well. I'm really excited to get this podcast released. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you love this episode, please share and tag us on social media at KG Salon.
I always follow them.
If you're a salon owner and would like to join our membership program, coffee, cake, and chat, get in touch for a space. Be around a like-minded tribe. Have 400 pounds worth of mentoring a month. And push yourself to the next level.
I love being a part of such a great community.
Until next time, have an amazing, successful week.